start the recording. Everybody smile. Let me get some music up here. Let's go to opening music. We're waiting for streaming. Can you all hear that? It's a very classy show. Okay, I'm ready to start. Here we go. Okay, gentlemen, dance with me. Come on, I want to see those moves.
Welcome to
Keith?
Read My Lips
Come on,
Radio,
Keith, let's
a
get those
lively
Jersey
hour of
beats in there.
unscripted conversations with savvy
do it.
creatives.
Joel?
Producer and host, aka
on,
Radio
Danny.
Red, asks novelists, artists,
You?
photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers,
We are live.
screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you to the voice of Ryan Treasure, who's been getting me on the air all these years. I'm AKA Radio Red on Mondays, and I have another name the other days of the week. It's very confusing being me. I have three very interesting, very talented, and very good-looking gentlemen on my show today, which makes Radio Red a very, very happy camper. It is November 3rd. As I say each week, where the heck is the year gone? I can remember it was like 2 minutes ago. It was New Year's Eve to get to 2025. We got out of the pandemic. We got out of now the world's a mess, chaos, but we're not going to talk about this. No politics here. Before I go into my full intro, I would like my guest to put up your fingers in the shape of the letter L, either left hand, right hand. I don't care. Shape of the letter L. Come on, Keith, you can do it. Keith, back up a little. I got to see that. Oh, he's got the full hand L. That's like Spock. Okay, on the count of three, join me in saying hello, LLL. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L, L,
L.
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 All right, that's like following the bouncing ball, the dots. Can we do it one more time and sing 1, 2, 3? Hello, L,
L.
L,
L.
L. Jordan, put them in third place for NSYNC. They were pretty good voices, but we were hoping for something a little bit different. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. And Keith, I've been trying to get her to leave Whitestone, New York for 10 years and come to a place. I'm in Loudon, Tennessee, and she won't move. So it's LLL from W. There you go. Today is November 3rd. As I said, my goodness gracious, it's the beginning of the month for this show. It's the month of harvest season foods, cranberries, pumpkins, winter squash. Is anybody here a squash fan, or anybody like sweet potatoes, carrots, or parsnips? Do we have, Keith is thinking about it. Joel, are you a parsnip fan, Joel? No, I didn't think so. I don't know anybody who is. It's National Sandwich Day today. It's National Cliche Day today. You're welcome to say a cliche. And it's National Accessories Day. And I have a couple of quick announcements here. I don't want to frighten anybody. We've got some famous birthdays. By the way, this is the 307th day of the 25-year, the Gregorian calendar. And Keith, I don't want you to get upset, but if you had a birthday in the first 2 weeks of October under the Julian calendar, you wouldn't have had your birthday because he got it all messed up because of the moon and the stars and the tides and all that. So Gregorian came along and he said, I'm going to give us an extra day every fourth year, and we're going to be in sync with the moon and the tides. And October babies like me got our birthdays back. So Keith, I knew you would take that very personally, and I didn't want you to. There were 60 days left, and I want to tell you it's the 45th Monday of the year, and nobody cares about that except me. But it's time, gentlemen, Joel and Keith and Dan, it's time to think about the coming New Year's Eve. And if you have something you want to make as far as a beverage, start putting it now. I mean, that homemade Kahlua you're going to put in the sink in the garage, Keith, those flavors have to blend. Dan, if you're looking online at some fancy champagne or something, the shelves are going to be cleared any minute now because Thanksgiving coming and then Christmas and Hanukkah. And Joel, whatever you're doing at Punch Bowl, you need that right wine or that vodka to go in it. It's time to buy all of that. So quick announcements here, and then we will get started. Today, 1956 on November 3rd, Elvis had a new hit called Love Me Tender. Anybody remember Love Me Tender, Love Me Do? Anybody? Keith
I know the
remembers
song,
it.
but I wasn't around when it happened.
Well, you want to know the good news and the bad news? The good news was that it hit number one. The bad news was it knocked out the A and B side of Don't Be Cruel and Hound Dog. He already was at number one, and he was the first artist to knock himself out of the top position. Today in 1956, also, The Wizard of Oz movie aired on TV for the first time on CBS. And today is Dolph Lundgren's birthday, 68 years old. You all know him as Drago, the Russian boxer in Rocky IV, and He-Man in Masters of the Universe. It's Kate Capshaw's birthday, 72. She is married to Steven Spielberg. Anna Wintour from Vogue magazine. In memoriam, I know you all know Charles Bronson. Remember? Vigilante Justice, Death Wish movies, Once Upon a Time in the West, The Mechanic, The Dirty Dozen, and all that's all I can tell you. So now let me officially start the show. I'm going to give you each a gift in my introduction, and I hope you enjoy it. So Dan will be first, then Keith, and then Joel. I love you all, but somebody had to be first, second, and third. Welcome to the Creativity Show, live streaming bright. Radio Red on her Scarlett Mic, igniting the light. Today, the travels of creativity take the stage, where journeys and genius inspire and engage. Authors Dan Petrosini, wave hello, Keith Mason, say hello, Joel McKay will tell how life's unexpected paths shape the tales they spell. With insights and laughter, you all have to laugh at some point during the show. Imagination in view, a sparkling exchange we're bringing to all of you. And I'm talking to our live viewers. Okay, Dan, you're up first. From Brooklyn beginnings, where quick minds play, Dan dreamed stories his very own way. At 10, he wrote tales on construction paper blue. With crayon and pencil, his imagination grew. From NYU halls at just 15, Dan chased new ideas, sharp and keen. Economics, psychology, paths he would explore. But storytelling called him Dan, 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 forevermore. Frustrated by endings too easy to see, he crafted his thrillers with mystery's key. Now Detective Frank Luca brings danger and flair, while Dan's jazz saxophone grooves fill the air. Dan, I hope you like that.
I'm very impressed.
I'm very glad.
I,
That's my gift.
I hope I get a copy of that. I hope I get a copy
I'll
of this.
send you a clip. I don't send out the text because it's all in the delivery. You understand? This is a drama
Bravo.
reading.
Bravo.
Thank you. Keith is next. Here we go. From South Jersey roots to Philly's grand beat, Keith Mason found stories in each face he would meet. From Garcia to Carlin, Monty Python's crew, his pen caught the pulse of the scene, real and true. Keith traded the newsroom for stages alive, where arts and compassion helped people revive. A teacher at Temple, Keith's students would see how words shape the soul and set their stories free. Then fate brought a twist from a screen's soft glow. His father was revealed on a 1961 game show. Now Keith's Please Stand Up book shares a tale profound, where a legacy lost and found comes around. Keith?
Well, there's a Nobel Prize hiding in there someplace.
You'll let me know. For me or for you, don't answer that. And Joel McKay is here. Joel, from Vancouver's rain to the forest deep green, Joel found magic in every scene. When toys lost their charm, his pen took the lead, turning play into stories all readers would heed. From journalist grit to a CEO's stride, Joel's walked many paths with passion as his guide. Now a city he steers with purpose and grace, while worlds of adventure still find their place. Through flawed heroes and treasures untold, Joel crafts epics both heartfelt and bold. With humor, with wonder, his tales light the sky, a dreamer, a doer, whose stories soar and fly. Joel?
Well, I think I'm done. I don't think there's a need for an interview here. I think you nailed it. That's me. It's
Okay.
magic, and I'm having a hard time holding back a tear. So
Oh,
thank you.
well, you're welcome to cry here. So let me finish up here from okay, so gather round where the cool vibes sway as we dive deep into creativity today. AKA Radio Red's energy lights the way. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. So, guys, how did I do? What do you think?
Phenomenal.
You
Phenomenal.
like
Yeah,
it? Okay.
pretty well.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. I have a collaborator named Sylvie, and she's French, and we speak in combination of French and English, and I'll tell you who she is after the show. I'm glad you enjoy it. I call these my gifts to my guests, and that's why I stopped asking people, Keith and Joel and Dan, for just a bio, because you're going to give me your media pitch, you're going to give me your CV, you're going to tell me all the jobs you had. You're not going to tell me all this stuff. So I
Yeah.
asked for an origin story. I started this about 2 years ago, origin story, and I say, tell me who you are. What is your
Mhm.
life all about? How'd you start? How'd you get here? What's going on? And they do, and you do. And that's how I create your little 12-line rhymed intros. And I'm so glad you like them. So now we're going to get down to business here. Let's go around the table. I'm going to give you each 2 or 3 minutes. Remember, if you see me doing this, it means you're on camera and I'm not. I get to change that camera. I'm the operator too. So, Dan, we're going to start with you. Is there anything I missed in the intro? And is there something about your writing you would like to share with us? Do you have a book to hold up? Tell us a little bit more, fill in the blanks, and officially welcome Dan. I'm putting you on speaker view right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Nothing about my background, but I've written about 30 novels, mystery and thrillers. And how I got there, I was in the regular business world, if you will. And I had a midlife crisis. It came very early, somewhere around 35 years old, when I felt half of my life was over, and I never was able to put the effort in to the creative side of it, which was writing and also playing music seriously. So I'm a saxophonist. And so my midlife crisis did not involve a girlfriend or a Ferrari. It involved a major shift in life towards exploring the creative aspect of it, because I did not want to have the regret. As an 80-year-old man sitting in a chair somewhere saying, I should have did this. So that's it. And how I'm inspired is just basically by the world around me. And it was the challenge of trying to, or actually the frustration, I should say, let me phrase it as frustration with some of the books and stories, movies that we all see. They just were too predictable for me. So instead of complaining about it, I tried to set out to try to to make my own stories that classic whodunits where people could not figure out until the last page or so.
And those of us who read those, and I watch a lot of French and Italian detective shows on TV,
Yeah.
we appreciate not being able to say after 12 minutes, I know who did it.
Exactly.
Even if it's one of those, where they show you in the beginning, those I'm not a favorite of, but where you're guessing. We know if you have a show that's 45 minutes to an hour long, and some of the BritBox shows and some of the French shows, which come to us years after they were on in Europe, some of them are 90 minutes long. It's like watching a little movie. But if they think they have a suspect at 12 minutes in, they don't, because then the show would be over. So that's a giveaway. Do you have a favorite saxophone player, somebody more famous than you, Dan, who's your icon?
Well, Stan Getz would be my favorite, because I enjoy playing bossa nova type music when I'm, that's my preference, although I play all kinds of music, but bossa nova.
Love it. Send me some of your music. I'd love to hear it. Thank you and welcome. Keith Mason, you're up next. Keith, putting you on speaker view. Tell us a little more about you. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know where I came from. I would think most people's creative lives are just the run of the dominoes. When I was 5.5 years old, my mother took me to a music school, and then they gave me a little exam to say, well, let's see what he's good at. Well, he seems to be good at the keyboards. Do you want to be a piano player, kid? And no, that didn't really interest me, because they're a dime a dozen. But the accordion, very French. And I could just be my own self. I could handle the rhythm. I could handle the buttons. I could handle everything. Got to be good enough to be the star player in the 6th grade variety show. Got to act in high school. Had that sort of a backdrop. But then, of course, rock and roll came along when Help came out in 1965. And I went to the matinee 3 days in a row, because the comedic life of the Beatles and their music, that would be the only way I could possibly live my life. So music took a turn, picked up a bass guitar, still have it up in my bedroom. It's been, 60? So I don't know how many years I've had this old box bass. During the rock and roll scene, when I was in school, into the college years. Meanwhile, how did I become a writer? I don't know. I read the World Book Encyclopedia when I was in 6th grade too. And eventually just things come out of you the same way somebody is good at math or good at science or good at speaking Lithuanian. I just happened to start writing, ended up on the high school paper, ended up on the college paper, ended up in the underground newspapers of Philadelphia in the early 70s, which is where my music came from the right side. The people and the writing came from the left side, and I got to spend 15 years interviewing the famous and the close to famous, or telling people about people who should be famous. And writing just followed me for the rest of my career, mostly in nonprofits, mostly in human services and education. Got to produce on the stage for a while. Had a ridiculous set of dominoes that took me from there to here. And the one night in October 9 years ago, when the big thing happened to me, and this retired writer all of a sudden was shocked and amazed, which we can talk about later in your program, Red. The big thing that happened, which dragged the writer back out of me again, out of retirement. I became a detective. I became a writer of a novel length piece, self published it because 72 agents didn't say yes, and worked on the screenplay, putting together a podcast now, still writing. And I guess the last dominoes have yet to fall, but we'll see where it goes.
There you go. Thank you very much. You know, I call this the Travels of Creativity. I have to come up with a different title for the show every week, and I do 50 episodes of this a year, and I've been doing it forever. And I have four other series, and they all need titles. And I looked at all of your bios, and I said, there's a lot of traveling in there. I should have said the notes, the music, the something around the crescendos. So I'll go back and rename the show. Thank you very much, Keith. And Joel, thank you for joining us. And you're coming to me from Mickey Mickelson of Creative Edge PR. And Joel, why don't you tell us a little more about yourself? I'm putting you on speaker view. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably not that different than Dan and Keith, except I don't have a background in music at all. I'm not musically inclined. I love music, but music's not my thing. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. And you said it in your introduction that the only reason why I started writing is because it wasn't cool to play with action figures anymore. And so I always wanted to write fantasy and scary stories and horror. And I got distracted for about 20 years working and going to school and being a journalist, and that led me into a number of other places. But ultimately, similar to Dan, hit my own version of a midlife crisis round about the same age, mid 30s, where I felt that I was like, I don't know how long I've got left on this planet, but whatever it is, being a journalist and some of the jobs that I've had didn't lead me to being a novelist, which was the original hope. So I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to start writing fiction. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I want to write stories that are based in Canada, and particularly here in British Columbia, and write about that place. And I still want to write those scary stories and fantasy stories that made me turn the page when I was a kid. And so and my pathway to this is very much mirrors my career trajectory, staying in British Columbia, coming to northern British Columbia, which everybody thought was nuts. If you live in Canada, why would you go further north? But in my particular case, further north is absolutely wonderful, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And out of that came a lot of scary stories and ideas that I think are pretty unique. And so, no Ferrari, no girlfriend for me either. There is a Nissan 350Z, so I suppose that sort of qualifies.
Oh, yeah.
But there definitely was a midlife career change in the last year, going back to school for my master's and continuing to write as much as I can. So for me, the pathway to creativity was almost a path back. It was there as a child, and then you get busy with life and kids and careers and all those things, and wake up one day or maybe multiple days in a row and realize, you know what, this is the thing I really want to do, and I've got, I'm going to invent the guts that it takes to go out and figure it out and see if I can make a go of it. And so here we are.
Here we are. By the way, I've owned 5Zs. I had I think the 260, the 280. I had the 350, the 370. I can't remember. There was a fifth one in there, and I had basically a death-defying accident in my last one 3 years ago on a rainy day coming back from a drum lesson, gentlemen, in Cary, North Carolina. I was living in Durham, and it was a Saturday, and it was raining, and everybody was still doing 75 miles an hour, noon on Saturday. And I'm in traffic, and all of a sudden I am losing control of the steering wheel on my beautiful little white 37. What was it? I don't know which one it was. It was up there with a red rag top and the red leather seats. And I can no longer control the car. And before I knew it, the wheel spun out of my hands. And I crossed over 2 lanes of 75-mile-an-hour traffic and landed 180 degrees, turned around against the guardrail in the middle, and there was a swamp in between the north and the south lanes of the highway. Would you believe the world stopped? Nobody hit me. Nobody helped me. Nobody beeped. Nobody came to rescue me. Nothing. Nobody touched me. The world stopped and I survived. And the first thing I remember is the motor was running, the lights were on. I'm 6 inches away from traffic facing me, coming toward me in the high-speed lane at 80 miles an hour in the rain, and I'm impaled on the guardrail with a swamp next to my car. Yes, that was quite a day. So that's how I had to give up my last Z, Joel. But I'll tell you that I went looking, and you can't find those cars. The minute it comes on Carvana or any of those, the minute somebody lists it, they're sold. So I went looking and looking and looking on Car Alley in Durham and Cary, and I found a car was there for me, but it was a Z4, black, convertible, and gorgeous. And it's in my garage. So I put akaRadioRed on a mirrored license plate, a vanity plate on the front. So that's my Z.
Cool.
Not the
Very
same
nice.
as the Nissan. And by the way, in the other ones, men used to stop me, Dan, you'll appreciate this, going to the Lincoln Tunnel or the Midtown Tunnel in New York. Men used to stop me in traffic and say, lady, you want to sell me your car? Teenage boys wanted to buy my car. It was a magnet of a different kind, Joel. So thank you all. I had to interject that. So listen, kids, I'm going to call you kids now. We're going to go through your opening quotes. I've asked you each to please send me a quote from a fictional character in a movie or a TV show or a partial song lyric. That is going to lead us into a little bit more about your own creativity. Dan has sent a quote from Don Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, The Godfather, 1972. I'm not doing this great, but I'm trying. 1972, epic gangster film directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's the quote, and it's a classic. So Dan, I'm going to ask you to tell us in 2 or 3 minutes, what does this have to do with your creativity? Make him an offer he can't refuse. Dan, how am I doing? Did I mess that up or was that okay?
I think I don't even recall sending that to you actually, but it is a classic line. And
Okay.
I would hope that I would be able to create a line that people would repeat back to me. And sometimes readers will send you an email and saying, "Yeah, I really love this. I love what this guy said about this," and sometimes try to inject a little bit of humor. But how did that? I'm not sure the connection between my own creativity, except to strive for the best you could possibly be, right? So is a battle between perfection and good enough, right? And and I'm sure the other gentlemen here that are writing, I mean, at some point we have to let the kid out, right? It's like your child. You slave over this manuscript, you keep on going over it. And at some point, and there's always improvements. You go, wow, I missed that last time, I missed that. And I do this before I send it to the editor, by the way. I go through it, the manuscript probably 6 or 7 times, making a little tiny changes here and there. And at that point, when it comes, all you're doing is messing around with a comma, essentially. At that point, you have to have the confidence, and that's a difficult thing when you're a writer, to let it go and get out in the world. So just circling back to the quote, and I'm not sure I'm really doing a great job with
You are.
tying.
You're doing great.
Tying the quote in there. But so those films like The Godfather, or even something like Hitchcock's Birds, or Doc of Zhivago, different genres. I mean, they set the standard, right? They set the standard, and not that I want to gain that kind of fame. I want to write a story that people go, "Oh my God, you got to read this. That's unbelievable," or "I didn't see that coming." And that's the highest compliment for me as a writer, to create something that somebody says they really enjoyed, because it's not just people focus on how much, buy my book, right? And whatever your book goes for, anywhere from, 99 cents to $11.99 for an e-version of a book. But what you're asking the reader to do is to commit their time to you, because they could spend the $10, but really what they're doing here is they're investing, how quick a reader you are, 6 hours to 14 hours to read a book, all total. So that's what I'm asking you to do. Take a shot with me, and during that point, you have to entertain them, and hopefully they're gonna tell their significant other or their friends, "Man, that was a hell of a book," or "I really didn't see that coming." And of course, when you receive an email from a reader just telling you that, "Hey man, that was great, I enjoyed it," or the highest thing I've ever had, and I've had this several times, people tell me that, "I was told to read your books, and I haven't read a book in 12 years, that type of thing. And now I'm on, 13 in that series, one of your series." Yeah, that
Wow.
type of thing. And that you go like, oh my God, that's really cool to get back to reading. We've lost it, right? I mean, the attention
Yeah.
spans have shrunk.
But there are too many choices out there. That's the problem. There's
100%,
a
100%.
plethora. But
So,
you did tie it to the quote. So make them an
uh,
offer can't refuse is making the reader an offer they can't refuse, they can't
ooh,
put down. You like that?
I love that. That's fantastic.
Okay, there you go. It's a
Bravo,
perfect.
Red.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to help out. Keith, let's go to your quote. This is from Michael Scott, played by Steve Carell. The Office mockumentary sitcom, NBC 2005 to 2013. This was from a two-part episode, season 5, episode 14 and 15, which were number 86 and number, I do my research.
Yeah, man.
Overall, aired on February 1st, 2009, after the Super Bowl. Very, very interesting. I know this is a very famous episode here. So Michael Scott says in this is a classic too. I know exactly what to do, but in a more real sense, I had no idea what to do. And there was something about a fire in the office. Dwight sets a fire and they have to check on their fire safety skills and things go from bad to worse. And Stanley has a heart attack and Michael has to relieve this. So I knew exactly what to do, but in a more real sense, I had no idea what to do. Okay, Keith, take it away. What does this have to do with your creativity? Go.
I'm not sure I could top that. I don't have any fire going on here, but that pretty much summarized the position I found myself in Dark Night in October in my basement office on the other side of this room that I'm in, when I picked up the threads of an adventure that previously did not exist for me. You mentioned something in the intro about finding my father. I never knew my father. He and my mother, he had scammed my mother in a couple of ways. They'd split up while I was still in utero back in 1952. And I was raised in my grandparents' house with my mom. And she was great about what my upbringing was. And that, kid, there are all kinds of families out there. This is just what you have. Okay, I was good with it. I had a male figure in my grandfather in the house. There were 3 million paternal orphans like me back in the early 1950s, guys who didn't come home from the Second World War or the Korean War, or they just dropped over shoveling snow, or they just took off, whatever the case. So I wasn't unique in that kind of a fashion. So I grew up the way I grew up, and it was perfectly okay. But then when you get to be an adult, people start asking, hey, well, oh, you never knew your father. You ever try to find him? You ever want to meet him? You ever find out anything? And I said, no, I'm not interested. They all thought I was crazy. And, it's the kind of thing that it would take a lifetime for a therapist to unpack. My attitude was, because I'd built emotional walls around me my whole life about not knowing my father, my attitude was I was not going to dignify the man with my curiosity. Everybody else, I'd be out on the second date with a woman. Hey, well, we got to do this. You got to do that. Your father, that's okay. Pass the onions. It never really affected me, but things change. Curiosities do pop out when you get older. Well, gee, that thing back in that part of my life back there. Well, gee, I wonder about this or that. And the internet comes along, and the internet has everything. So every so often, starting maybe 15 years ago, I'd have a little spare couple of minutes on a rainy night. I'd be typing out something. I put in a little search. I knew my father was a deep sea salvage diver, an adventurer, a schemer. So I would have some keywords like Burton, Mason, diver, war. And I found a story out, which actually I'd known about when I was a kid. My mother saved a copy of Newsweek magazine when my dad was in there about an underwater salvage adventure on a Nazi U-boat. So I'd be here on the internet and things would pop and things would pop and things would pop. And eventually I saw everything that there was to see. Okay. And one night, it's October, it's 1964. And I'm sitting in the office and I'm doing this little exercise just out of a vague curiosity. And something shows up at the bottom of my results, something I hadn't seen before. And just from the picture and the words chosen, a piece of my mind going back to the 1950s when I was a boy knows what this is. And the other part of my brain has no idea what I'm stepping into, like that first time you finally take your parachute and go out the door. So click, and I find my father on a YouTube from 1961 as a contestant on To Tell the Truth. He's sitting across from Johnny Carson bantering with celebrities. They don't guess that he's the guy because you have to guess which of the three imposters is the real guy.
Yeah.
They fail to guess that he's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he stands up. So I'm going through this whole emotional real life experience for myself when I'm 64 years old. And I show my partner, and I don't yet show my mom. I don't yet show my kids. I'm just kind of working on this. But even in my semi retirement, I spent my whole life telling people I'm a writer, telling myself I'm a writer. I'd better write something. And I start scribbling notes. I figure I'll come up with 12 pages. Some magazine will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it 6 weeks. It turns into 12 weeks and 20 pages. It turns into 6 months with 62 pages. It turns into, well, it has to go someplace. It looks like for the first time in my life, I'm going to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just about the story of finding this guy. It's about the American history and the grand American parade that he fits into.
Mm-hmm.
And the other parts of the puzzle that keep collapsing in on me, that lead me to 8 half siblings I didn't know about. One of them, an honored homicide cop in Akron, Ohio, who I find out is going into the slide of dementia. And I'd better find him and shake his hand before I lose him.
Wow.
I
Keith,
find
I
that
want
there's
you to
another half brother.
I want you to lead into the book behind you. Please stand up. I need to move on, but this is absolutely
That one, yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, tell us about that book quickly.
And so the final piece of the puzzle is my grandfather, a reporter like me, turned PR man like me, got by a crooked cop in Texas in 1949 for sticking his reporter's nose into the wrong places in a First Amendment case they're still teaching in college these days. All this stuff piles on. If I'm a writer, I've got a book length. I've got all these stories to compact, a story that nobody else has lived through the way I've lived through it. I have to do it. To not do it, to me, Red, was going to be a dereliction of duty.
Yep.
That's what shoved me into that rabbit hole. And
there's the
it
book.
finally popped out the other side.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I'm glad you came out of the rabbit hole. That's a fascinating story. You are quite the storyteller, sir. That was beautiful, by the way.
I'm told that I write the way I talk.
I can understand that. I would have read that. Thank you. I'm going to move on. Joel McKay, your quote is from Indiana Jones. We've got some classics here today, played by Harrison Ford. The film was the 1981 action adventure film Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Kate Capshaw's husband, Steven Spielberg. I've never said it that way before. Based on a story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. And the quote is, "It's not the years, it's the mileage." Fascinating quote. Joel, what does this have to do with your curiosity? Go ahead. I mean, your creativity. I've got the curiosity word from Keith now. Creativity. Go ahead, Joel.
Well, I think it is just a sign of packing it in life. That's how I always think of it. One of the things that's been and I don't mean this as a boast, it's just a reality, is that throughout my life, since I hit my 20s anyway, which is 20 years ago now. I've always been the youngest in my career at whatever stage I was at. I was the youngest reporter in the newsroom. I was the youngest editor of a business publication in the country. I was the youngest CEO in the public service in BC, and it goes on and on and on and on. And people say, well, like, what's with that, and how is that? And at the same time, I've had to deal with a lot of ageism, because people look at you and they're like, well, you're 25, 26. What the hell do you know? You're 30, you're 35, and now 40. I think finally that seems to be going away. So I've always struggled with this imposter syndrome, but at the same time, finding myself continually in leadership positions or areas of responsibility that, frankly, I'm not qualified for if you would really lay it out on paper in any way, and yet kept going. And so that line always resonated with me, because people would challenge me on my age and what I know, and I would just say to them, well, it's not the years, it's the mileage. And I got to tell you, I packed a lot into my 40 years. I've done that purposefully. It's my view on life, my philosophy, that I didn't want to, however much time I have, I didn't want to just sort of float through. I wanted to, see where I could get, see what I could do, and optimize every hour of the day, as it were. And so when it comes to writing, it turns out it's the same thing. in a short time span of getting into fiction, having several books come out and a number of short stories and sort of getting this going. It's just productivity and pushing through and packing it in. And that to me is a philosophy for how I've lived my life, not to accomplish more than other people, not to elevate myself, again, not to boast, but just it's been very, I would say from a young age, mortality I've been very aware of, probably because of my own circumstances that I grew up in, and always kind of thought to myself, I don't know how much time I have, but there's a lot I want to do, so I'm just going to pack it in. And I've always been interested in living a life that made for really good stories. My father was that way. His father was that way. I'm pretty sure my great grandfather was that way. They were all these larger than life personalities that packed a lot in to a short number of years. And so I grew up around that. I wanted to live my life the same way, and have. And not all the stories are positive. A lot of them are life lessons, but a lot of them are good. And I don't think, I don't regret anything. And all of it feeds into storytelling. All of it feeds into every book I write, whether it's a scary story or my latest one, The Dungeoneers, which is a fantasy action adventure. All of that plays into the characters and how that comes out. And you can really see it in The Dungeoneers itself, because I pack a lot into that book. It's a 350 page turner of just adventure after adventure after adventure. I don't think there's a single moment of it slowing down. And I've heard that again and again from readers. It's just the pace and tempo at which my stories move is probably reflective of how I've lived life. I also just really love that scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, because he's just beat to hell, and just keeps on getting up and going back for more, for no other reason than he's Indiana Jones, and that's what he does.
There you go. And what you've just described is what Dan was describing as make the reader an offer they can't refuse. If they're going to go through 350 pages, it better be good. It better be packed, right? Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, for the interesting quotes from very classic characters and very classic films. Let's see if we can squeeze in some creativity statements now. We're going to keep this brief because we got about 17 minutes left, and I want to make sure everybody gets some coverage here. So, Dan, I'm combining your first two statements. You probably don't even remember sending them to me, but I'm going to read them to you. Okay, here we go. Dan says, I make paintings, songs, poems, legal articles, and books. I write each and every day and shoot for 1,000 words a day. I wrote my first song in 1989 at 14. I mostly paint in the evenings after 9 p.m. Let's talk about your 1,000 words a day. Is that a push? Do you dictate? Do you write? Do you use a tablet? Let's do a little process here. Go ahead.
So I'm a highly disciplined guy, and like Joel mentioned, man, I don't waste a second. I'm a productivity nut. Okay, a nut. So I don't paint. I play music. So something got a little mixed up there. So I set a goal for myself every day for 1,000 words a day. And irrespective, and people talk about writer's block. I don't believe in writer's block. I think it's basically a very convenient excuse to stop writing. So you have to get your tail in the chair, and sometimes it's tough. It is tough. It's not easy. There's no such thing as a muse. I don't believe that. Inspiration, blah, blah, blah. This is a job. You sit down, you create, the characters and the stories are creative, but the actual execution is job-like. You have to sit down and you have to grind it out at times. Yeah, there are times that it flows, and there are times that most times it doesn't flow. So you have a decision at that point. I can give up, or I can power through it. Or sometimes when you're stuck, when you paint yourself into a corner in a plot and you realize, oh my God, where am I going to go with this? You can again sit there and go, oh, poor me. I'm never going to be able to do this. Or you can go on and write another part of the story that's going to happen, right? So if you're going to do this for a living, quote unquote, or full time, you have to figure out ways around this thing. The interesting thing that happened to me, the way I write, I consider myself a discovery writer, which is kind of, like a morph hamster. I'm not a big outliner. All right,
a hybrid.
Yeah, kind of a hybrid. I write some bullet points, and as I go along, kind of like when you're driving at nighttime, your headlights can give you whatever it is, a quarter of a mile, and I know where I'm going up to that point. And as you continue to progress the story, but many times you'll get to a point where I don't know where to go. So at that point, I either write some other part of the story that has to get written anyway. And then I let that plot thing, just the plot problem or the story problem, and I use my subconscious. I know it sounds a little wooey-ish, but when I wake up in the morning, I don't get out of bed. I kind of introduce that problem that I'm facing in the story I'm writing, and I let it sit there, and I look for solutions, but not actively. It's really more of a passive thing. So things come into my mind anyway, and as soon as they come in, I actually kick them out. Because I'm trying to cycle through ideas. I don't want to settle on one. And sooner or later, maybe not that day, but maybe it takes 5 days. Maybe you're walking somewhere, you're exercising or doing some other mundane task like emptying the dishwasher. All of a sudden, you just think, you know what, that could work, man. That could work. And then I play with that idea and try to get there. I just want to say one quick thing about this thing about forcing words out. So my process is, as I said, I write along, and then when I get maybe 15 to 20,000 words in it, I go back to the beginning. I read through it just to get more in touch with the story. And what I realized was that I could not discern the difference between the stuff that quote unquote flowed and the stuff that was forced, and that the quality appeared to be the same. And I was like struck by that. And it was like a big revelation. So now I'm happily forcing it out the word by word. So anyway, that's how
you
I
did a quality check on the value of forcing versus just coming out. Interesting. I've never heard that before. Very interesting. Any quick comments from Joel or Keith about that? Do you have the similar experience of pushing? I have to do 1,000 words a day. Joel, just real fast, 1 minute. What do you think?
I do 2 sentences a day just to eat around my own psychology, but often 2 sentences ends up being a lot more than that. It can be as much as 4,000 or 5,000 words, but then at least I don't feel as bad if I don't do more than 2 sentences. But the key is the discipline, and I agree with Dan. I always liken it to a marathon. I'm a pantser too. I like long distance running. Writing is the same way. I like being in it. I like the suffering. I like the creating and the escape of it. And you do have to treat it like a job. You just have to get at it and keep creating and just not go back and edit. Just
I should have called this.
That happens later.
I should have called this episode "The Suffering of Creativity." Keith, quickly, any comments?
Well, my life has been different from my comrades here in that I spent my entire career in nonprofit communications. I was a PR guy. I was a form of storytelling. Hey, come to this concert. Give some money to this drug and alcohol rehab center. Hey, Action News, here's a great story for you. Come over to our place and pin this down. I was writing in paragraphs. So when I finally started writing this first long form thing, I was not going through what Daniel has gone through in terms of this much, this much, this much. It was, what can I do to take this big box of confetti of information that started piling on top of me and sifting it through and turning it into something reasonable. Like Dan, things that I knew were my quality work and stuff that was a big jumble. Well, the audience wouldn't really know the difference because it's just a nice story to run through. So I didn't worry about that too much, even though the first part of my book took 20 drafts and the last part of my book took maybe only 3 because I finally got there. But I've never had that experience of 1,000 words a day. Discipline. This is a job.
You were
I'd show up
metamorph.
at my desk and it would just kind of pop out of me because I knew I had a newsletter to write and it would just go write it.
Yep, you were on deadline. You metamorphosed into a writer from a paragraph writer. Very interesting. Quick story. I wanted to write some romantic comedy plays about 10 years ago, and I had no idea, but I had an idea. I didn't know how to do it, so I found a Playwriting 101 document download free on the internet, and I downloaded the document. And Joel, it told me how to set up a scene. Curtain goes up and curtain goes down, and 2 sentences about each character and location, time of day, and then the dialogue. And I wrote it. I was working full time, but I wrote it in 3 nights from 1 to 4 in the morning. It just poured out, and the characters told me what to say. They told me who they were, what they looked like, what they were eating, what they were dressed like. The whole thing, it wrote itself. It was such an. And then I had a TV show, so I got some community actors, some community theater actors, and I said, you don't have to memorize a thing because they were in multiple plays. I'll give you teleprompters. We'll hide them. You won't look like you're reading. And they went through this. I directed them. I helped create the characters. We put them in a green screen studio. We had video footage of the scene, which was traffic in front of Penn Station, New York, with the noise and the buses and all that. And it worked. I'll send you all the link if you'd like to see it. It's
Yeah,
called Hail,
definitely.
Hail, Hail. It took place in a taxi cab.
So I said that there was no such thing as a muse, but apparently there is, and he lives in your house.
It was my life. Okay, let's go to Keith. I'm going to see it. We're running out of time here, but this is fun. I might have to invite you all back. Keith says, I find that acquiring skills to do something new and finding your true voice are two very different things. That's probably a whole term paper. But the one I wanted to read was, you say, when I'm being creative in the kitchen, either I get the flavors right and please people, or I don't. And the next time I adjust the salt. Just give me a quick example of your favorite recipe, Keith, because we have a lot more to do. So go ahead, Keith. What you got?
Well, I'm not going to spend a minute talking about my French vegetables. Uh, but when I drifting back to the thing that I mentioned before, when I was first putting this together, not knowing what kind of if it was going to be a book, much less that it was, how it would all turn out in the end. I just knew, hey, I'm a writer. I owe it to myself, to how I've invested my whole life in words and communication. I better take this amazing thing and do it. But the first 10 drafts of the first 50 pages were just a big jumble and just went over and over. I was reading Stephen King's book and other kinds of things on how to be a good long form writer, how to take apart a sentence, all this stuff that was intuitive when I was doing a 2-paragraph press release is a whole different beast. It's a whole different cookbook in French, which I do not speak, but I better figure that part out. And I was constantly returning, redrafting, papers flying all over the place comedically until I settled down and got the way I wanted to tell this story into my system. And then I could just throw this in, through this, stir. So by the time I got to the last 80 pages, it was just rolling. But the first 20, salt and pepper and stuff.
Yep. Oh, did he freeze?
Yeah.
He just froze.
All
okay.
over the floor. It was a
you just froze. That was interesting. Okay, but we got your thought. I want to move on. We're running out of time here. My fault partially. Joel, listen to this. Joel says, creativity is opening myself to everything around me and asking, well, what if? I commute 100 kilometers every day to work. I love it, though most people think that's odd. I commuted to New York City, and I loved it too. I'm not the only one. I've noticed some of the same people and cars commuting in the same or opposite direction. It's like I see the same people I know each day, not unlike train riders like me commuting to the city. The difference is the remoteness, the distance. I wondered one day, what if they're not real people? What if they're NPCs and this is all a simulation? Then I asked myself, what if someone was nutty enough to believe that and try to prove it? How would I tell the story? What I mean is, well, what if? That is fascinating. Take 3 minutes because we don't have much more time. Joel, I want to hear about this. Go ahead. What's the what if?
Yeah, I mean, the what if is that, and I think Dan actually did a really good job of describing this, where he kind of lets the ideas come to him, but he doesn't necessarily decide on it. He kind of let it gestate a little bit, right? Let it ferment, and then 4 or 5 days later, if that's still with you, or if it fits, yeah, okay, that actually works. And so it's the same with me. I just keep myself open to whatever's going on around me. I find with the commute, I'm what we describe as a road warrior. Up in this part of the world, you kind of need to be because it's big. British Columbia is a very, very big place, and northern BC is a big, big part of it. So it's always distances, and it's always like there's nothing in between. If you're on the East Coast, it's a pretty much a steady stream of towns between towns until you're at the next major city. Unless you get out of that in the West, it's like nothing in between, and you can go missing, and that creates a lot of opportunity, especially for the horror writer, to think about, oh, what if all this would occur? What are all the ways that this could go sideways? And so I do that, and the NPC story idea is one of them. I haven't written it yet. It's still rolling around in my head.
Define NPC. Tell us an NPC. What is it?
Non-player character.
Thank you.
So like an avatar, right?
Yep.
That's the video gamer in me. I'm an elder millennial, so video games are a big part of my life. But that being open to that, being open to crazy ideas, not immediately shooing them away, is what for me is the foundation or the scaffolding around ultimately what I end up writing and publishing. And I think that the key to that is not judging myself for whatever insane ideas happen to run through my head at any point in time, trying to keep a log of them, but also not chasing every one of them right away. So I will let them gestate. I will let them sort of go there, because I also don't want to be a squirrel with my ideas and immediately, when I'm in the middle of one project, go off and try and write 6 others, because you never get anything done. It's the same way with going back and editing your, as you go constantly, you just end up in this revolving door of editing and you're not making progress, right? So I write down the ideas, I keep them, I stick them somewhere on my phone or in a shelf. And then return to them. But I stay focused and disciplined on the project at hand until it is done, right? Or until it runs its course, which sometimes means I'm not actually finishing it. But that what if is everything. And I think for me, someone who's a writer of genre fiction, typically kind of the supernatural or otherworldly stuff, that really that's my jam, right? Like, you really get to sort of say, well, what if it was like this? What if that came out of the woods right now? What would that look like? What would I do? What would other people do? And that leads to a cool place. And it's a place I like it's a place I like to spend a lot of time. I can tell you, being a city manager, I don't get to live in the what ifs all the time. I've got to make sure the city functions and the toilets flush and the water comes and the police are acting as there should be and all those other things. So the commute, where I get to turn off and think about story, is a pretty magical place for me.
Very nice. And by the way, David Byrne talked about, he was interviewed a couple of years ago, and he said he calls those the little beginnings. And he was thinking of a song. He'd say a couple of words or the title of a song. He puts it away somewhere in a file, and then he goes back to it. He says, think about it. Spend some time looking at it later and see what you want to do with it. I wish we had more time, but I'm going to give exactly 1 minute to Dan to comment on the beginnings of the what if, and Keith 1 minute, and then I'm going to close. So Dan, is what if mean something to you?
What if is something I engage in all the time. I mean, I was always, because I think I was like trying to prepare for situations all the time. Even as a kid, I would say, like, what happened if this person died, or if this happened, if we had to move, if we lost all our money. And maybe it was a way to insulate myself, that I'd be prepared. And I use what ifs crazy. I mean, there's a snowboarding documentary called Crash Reel, and it was about Sean, the guy with the long red hair who won millions of medals, but he was competing then. Yes, Shaun White. He was competing at the time, and the kid who was better than him got a traumatic brain injury. And it was really a powerful movie. It wasn't a sports movie. It was a family movie. He had his brother who had Down syndrome. I cried watching it. The second time I watched it, I said, what happens if you have a TBI and you're accused of murder? And either A, you have a legitimate reason to say, I don't recall the events, or you are using it as a shield to insulate yourself. And that whole little thing ended up being 18-book series that started the thing. So it was something that I had, and I tucked it away because I didn't feel like I had the writing chops.
I have a proposal. I have to interrupt you. I have a proposal. We can stay on and add a few more minutes. Jordan's going to end us on that YouTube channel, but I'm willing. Can you stay a little longer, Joel and Keith and Dan? Because we're really rolling here. So Jordan, you want me to play the outro music, or can you patch it in from previous shows? Jordan, you want to speak for a second? Jordan, talk.
I'll patch it in.
Patch it in. Thank you. So everybody wave goodbye. We're going to keep going on my YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Jordan, thank you very much. Voice America Empowerment, Voice America Media. Say hi to Aaron for us. And we're just going to keep rolling. I don't want to end this. Okay. I'll see you Wednesday, Jordan. Bye. Okay. He's going.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Dan. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to settle with him. So I got that note from you, that the gist of the what if. Keith, you're in a different position. So you were writing more fact-based. It's an event, it's happening, it's PR, go to this car dealer, go to this nonprofit. So you didn't really, the only what if was think of what it would be better if you do go there, if you do contribute to this event, if you do attend this concert. So you were in the what if of the positive of the result of your PR. But you want to comment briefly, Keith, on, we're not going to take too much more time. Go ahead.
Right. Again, not being a fiction guy, I barely have time to even read any fiction because there's just so much real world around that surround us anyway. But as you were saying, in public relations storytelling, either to get funding or to get an audience or to get attention or get a good press, it's the what is that I always worked with.
Yes.
And when the thing happened to me 9 years ago, when I found my sociopathic father, who married 7 times to 6 women and had 8 other kids, and my murdered grandfather in a dumpy Texas town called Alice in 1949.
You didn't say
It was
that
all,
before.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, gee, what did you do last week?
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and
Yeah.
it took 2 years to unpack all this,
Yep.
but it was all a matter of what was and what is. And there was some what if, well, what if I had met this person, or what if he had come back, or I could imagine all of that. But what I had to work with, my clay on the rod that you make, trying to figure out how to write something book length with all this information. It was all what was and what is.
Yeah.
So it's a documentary approach, but my approach was more of sitting around the dinner table, and you had a nice meal and everybody's convivial. It's all done. Oh, by the way, everybody, let me tell you a story. You got 3 hours?
Mm.
And speaking and talking the same as I'm told that I do, it was all about just working through all the discombobulations of what was and what is now, and a little bit of what if. But that's what I had to work with. The
Yeah.
approach that I always took in explaining this to people. Well, gee, you never did this before. How do you write a book? Well, you do what a sculptor does. You have a piece of wood, you have a central rod in the middle of it, you pack on all this clay that you've got, and then you carve away everything that doesn't look like a horse. That's the only approach I could come up with, is
I have a
getting rid of.
question for you. Did you ever think of the what if your father had stayed in your life or come back of his own volition into your family at an earlier time before the 12 wives and the 15 children? I'm extrapolating here, excuse me.
All of that.
But
I,
did
I,
you ever think about that?
I spent a little time in the book thinking about it.
Yeah.
The Tom Waits guy who goes out for cigarettes and doesn't come back. We're seeing
Yeah.
some guy at the school playground with his fingers through the fence. We're
Yep.
coming into the apartment one night after work or school, or whatever, and there's my mother and some sort of shadowy, familiar guy
Yep.
sitting there on the couch with her.
Yep.
What would these moments be like?
Yes.
But luckily for me in my life, I'm okay with luckily. It never happened. All I could do was just semi-romantically speculate for the reader, but I never had to deal with that stuff. I had so much to deal with. Those kinds of what ifs didn't really have time for.
Yep.
There's so much baggage on the floor as it was.
Keith, do you have a fiction novel in you, do you think? Yes or no? We have time for just
I
a
don't
yes or
have
no.
anything else in me. Agents would ask, "Boy, this sounds interesting. What other books are you going to do?" I'm never going to do another book. I can't
Okay.
imagine these guys and what they do, pounding
Okay.
out the ideas and the ideas and the ideas. I'm
I know.
exhausted just from
I
the one.
know. I know. Joel, how many more books do you think you have in you? And do you have a next one planned you could do a quick promo for us? Another character,
Um,
another adventure?
yeah, I actually, hopefully, I never stop until I die. And actually stopping writing isn't a choice for me. Like
Okay.
that's one thing I've realized, like that's not going to happen. If I want to keep whatever shred of sanity I have or have left, I need to continue to write. And so it's my creative outlet. And I think anybody who has a creative outlet, no matter what it is,
Have
would
to.
probably resonate with them on that. I do have another novel written. It's a what I'm calling an industrial gothic horror novel set on the west coast of British Columbia.
Okay.
Yeah, so scary as hell and
I,
full of
I,
dread.
I know you're Canadian because you said process and you said oot instead of out. So
Yeah, there you go.
I want to make sure
Um,
you were real. Continue your sentence and then we're going to go to Dan. Go.
Yeah, so it's written. It's the subject of my thesis. I plan to convocate next year and then publish shortly thereafter. So.
Good. Well, we want to hear more about that. Dan, what's in next for you?
Well, I mean, I always have a book that I'm writing, and I have a book that's maybe 60,000 words in it. So I'm maybe 2/3 of the way done. And crazy diversion, I was asked to create a mystery night in a restaurant, and we did this a couple of weeks ago. So I wrote my first screenplay. It really wasn't a screenplay. I don't know. I had 7 actors, and the thing
Yeah.
was such a hit that we already booked the second one, and I'm writing that screen thing. So that was
Yay!
and that was also fun. But I mean, I'll never stop playing music, and I'll never stop writing. I mean, that's the blood that runs through me.
Yeah,
I feel fortunate that I get so much out of it, even though at times it is difficult, right? I mean,
sure.
there's some pain involved here. I mean,
I'm still working on my first novella. It's a sarcastic survival. I have a pen name for it, and it's going to be Surviving the Sass and
Mm.
everything in an HOA 55 plus community.
Yeah.
And I was told I can't be funny in the disclaimer. Somebody told me legally I have to say it's all made up and too bad if you think it's you. But I
Yeah.
was going to say if you think it's you, get a lawyer or a good therapist or don't drive over the cliff like Thelma and Louise. And I was told nobody would take that as a joke because I could get sued for that. So I
Just a
had to take
coincidence, all coincidental.
all coincidental. That's absolutely right. I belong to an online poetry group, and right now we just started PAD Poem a Day Challenge. We get a prompt early morning from the
Cool.
moderator, Writer's Digest, Robert Lee Brewer, and we're in day 3. I've been doing this for 3 years. We get a poem a day prompt in April and November of every year, and then the rest of the year we get one every Wednesday. So I wanted to share with you. I did 3 poems today. I'm not going to read those to you. Today's prompt was write a how something blank, how to, how about something, and everybody went nuts with it. We had a lot of fun. But I want to read an acrostic, which is one of my favorite forms. I write in forms, disappearing nines, acrostics. I break the 5th line on the limerick, and it's a run-on sentence, Dan, that goes on forever with no punctuation, and then the last word rhymes with the AA from the 2 lines of the beginning of the limerick. So this is an acrostic I wrote in July of 2024, and I dedicate this to the 3 of you as my creatives today. So I'm going to emphasize the words because it's night shift. That was the prompt. NIGHTSHIFT. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'll lean in a little bit when I get to the next letter. So the lines are NIGHTSHIFT. Here we go. Never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative. Going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing, highs and lows, flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days are the nights are the days again, shifting off and on, into and out of gear, hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling, command, curse, roller coaster, finding eureka, euphoria amid frustration, fears. Thus is the life of the creative. What'd you think?
Bravo, man. I think
Very
that should be
good.
in
Well
magazines.
done.
You like it?
You should be able to sell that to a magazine for sure.
I haven't sold any. I have a little chapbook
Really?
called
What a
30
shame.
Days Hath April 2024. I put in 25 of my poems in that, but I haven't done anything. I probably should. You know, it's hard to submit poems to anthologies because usually anthologies have, it's like they're only taking submissions for the first 3
Yeah.
weeks of September when oysters are in season. You know that.
Difficult stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very difficult to get in. So I just share them with my friends. I'm
I wrote,
glad
I
you.
wrote, I used to write poetry when I was a kid. I did. I mean,
I
uh,
write it. I write it every day and I love it. And when it's Wednesdays,
right.
we're all waiting. Let me see if I can quickly find the one from today. I think you'll get a kick out of it if you have
It's
time
almost
to.
like for you, it may be a weird kind of journaling, right? I mean, if you're
It
writing
is.
something every
It
day like that.
it
Yeah.
is. And I try not to. Okay, here's today's poem was write a how something. So uh this is the alphabet of how to cook happy eggs. Okay. So it's one word per letter. It's 26 lines. You ready? Always break carefully delicate eggs, flawlessly gliding horizontally into just kindled, lightly moistened, never overheated pan, quickly rocking sideways till Uncle Vinny waves excitedly, yelling, Zowie!
Well, that type of a challenge, actually, you might be able to use that with our aging population as a cognitive,
Well, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bottom,
cognitive exercise.
the PS is, of course, you might not have an Uncle Vinny, neither do I. So substitute whoever fits it. And then I have one more. This is called How to Look Happy. HOWTOLOOKHAPPY. And each letter is a word. Handle opinions wisely,
Oh,
tease often, laugh openly, opulently, kaleidoscopically. Let me read that again. Laugh openly, opulently, kaleidoscopically. Harmonize always, probably privately yodeling.
Man.
That belongs on your business card in 4-point type across the back.
You think so? You like that? So that's
So
what
I
I
would
did
say
this
that
morning.
I've been on a number of podcasts over the years, and I would say you are definitely the most engaging and interesting host. What would you say, guys?
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
sweet.
yeah. I would
Thank
agree.
you.
This was
Thank
a fast hour.
And you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what? You know what my strength is? My strength is my passion is speaking to interesting people like the three of you. That's what gets me up. I have 5 different series now, and I do sometimes 5 to 8 shows live a week, including some actual jobs that I get paid for.
Well,
I'm going to talk.
Do you have a link that we could share with our?
I'm going to send you all the links to the
cool.
on. We're still broadcasting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you all the on-demand links and the pictures. We're going to take pictures because we didn't get Joel in the proper pictures before we started. And I want to finish my closing right now and then stick around, gentlemen. So here is the closing. In 2014, I ended the show with the top 10 tips for women. Has nothing to do with you, but I think you'll enjoy this one, especially Keith is looking at me like, what? The number 1 tip was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. Okay, I just wanted you to know I saved this from 2014. Now, here are my final words. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly. I still haven't figured that one out. Kiss slowly. Absolutely. Love truly. Laugh uncontrollably. Everybody join me in a quick laugh uncontrollably. Come on, break loose. Don't hurt yourself. And never regret anything that made you smile. Closing words. Work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. When I was teaching disco in a cafeteria in a high school near Eugene, Oregon, and they didn't have a stage, and I had to dance on top of a Formica tabletop wearing high heels. Everybody watched. I didn't fall, but I made them build me a wooden stage the next week. It was a 10-week class. We had 275 people sign up, and it was called You Should Be Dancing. Sing like nobody's listening. I tried not to sing tonight. I can't help it. And love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Let your heart grow, rejuvenate, learn to love again. Money talks. Chocolate sings, and last but not least, I stole this line from somebody else years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Radio Red signing off. Let's play the closing music. Let's see if we still got music here. Closing music.
On Read My Lips Radio, producer and host, akaRadioRed, invites you to eavesdrop on her live, unscripted conversations
Joel,
with smart, savvy, creative people as she discovers what makes them tick, where they find their inspiration, when creativity first became their passion, and how their creative process can inspire the rest of us to think out of the box. Enjoy akaRadioRed's always lively, cool conversations with creatives. Oh, how those lips can talk.
Thank you very much to Ryan
On
Treasure.
Read My Lips Radio, producer and host